Hey, we are live at my home today. I am Jessica from KitchenAble Cooking School, and after a very adventurous day on the water yesterday, I am proud to say we caught a few fish. And so I thought that tonight I would go over a few hints and tips for cooking fresh seafood, especially since we live here so close to the Gulf and we have so much wonderful fresh seafood available to us. So I'm going to try to clean a fish for you, which is a very messy job, right here without making a mess live on camera. It is kind of a crazy idea, but I think we can pull it off. So thanks for tuning in. If you don't mind, take a minute and set up a watch party and get some other people to watch, because it always helps as a small business when more people know that we exist. But I'm going to make a salad first to go with our fish. And so I'm going to start out by soaking some red onions. This is a red onion. I only need about a half a cup of it, and I have cut it into thin strips, and I've got that ready to go. So that's going to go in my bowl, and I'm going to cover that with some white vinegar. And I'm actually using a white balsamic vinegar, but you can just use plain old white vinegar, or you can use rice vinegar. I'm using the white vinegars because they don't have a lot of color, and that way they won't add a lot of color to the dressing. We're going to let this soak while I do a few other things, and as it soaks, it's going to take the bitterness out of the onion and help it to be a little more mild and gentle. And it's also going to help the vinegar to be infused with that flavor so that the rest of the salad will be infused with the sweet onion, or the red onion. So we've got this ready to go. And because the fish is going to be so messy, I'm going to cut ahead a little bit and do our herbs. We're going to use fresh cilantro, and I only need about 2 tablespoons of that, so I'm going to go ahead and get that ready. I like to wash my cilantro in a bunch and rinse it under the water really well like that, and then I just shake it off so that it's perfect and ready to go, and I just find that's a lot easier. With cilantro, you can use the stems as well as the leaves because the stems are very tender and they have a similar flavor, so I just cut from the end until it gets to the stem part. Then I do pick it off a little more, but the very end of the cilantro is very tender and it works well. So I've got my cilantro, and that's going to go in our salad. So I'm going to set this aside. I'm not quite ready to put it in. I don't want it to absorb too much of the vinegar flavor. And then I also have some fresh mint, and this came from my herb garden. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull the leaves off the stems. As you can imagine, this is a really refreshing salad from the bright green flavor of the cilantro and the refreshing flavor of the mint. So just 1 second. I see that my tech crew is having a technical difficulty right now. So if you have any questions, I will answer them as soon as my wonderful producer pulls it up on the screen. Come on, Max, I have faith in you. All right. So I'm getting all of these leaves off of the mint so that we're able to do this. And that'll be ready to go. And then I'm just going to coarsely chop the mint. If your mint leaves are large enough, you can stack them and roll them kind of like a cigar, doing a technique called chiffonade. And that will help them to not oxidize as quickly so they won't turn brown as fast. But if you can't do that, then you can just chop them about the same size and throw them in your bowl. So I'm just going to sort of loosely pack them into a pile because I have some smaller leaves. And so there that goes. All the mint is chopped, and it will go into a bowl as well. Actually, I'm just going to stack it right here on the cutting board, ready to go in the big bowl once we're ready with everything else. There are a few other things we're going to add to the salad, but I will add those later. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Wipe the herbs off my hands. You get to see what we caught when we went fishing. I'm quite proud. This is the largest grouper that I've ever personally helped catch. I am not going to publicly disclose exactly who reeled in the grouper, but I will say that I was very close to them at the time. And here we have it. This is our beautiful fish that we caught It was a nice size and large enough for regulation. You know, it's really complicated fishing. There are a lot of rules and laws that you have to follow. So I recommend taking the handbook with you, especially since when you're out in the water, it's easy to lose signal if you don't want to reel in a fish and find out you're a convicted felon when you get to shore because it was too small. So check the rules and guidelines. I was with a friend who was very knowledgeable on fishing, and so he was able to make sure that the grouper was legal at the time where we were fishing and everything. And there, not only does the size matter, but some fish are seasonal. I know red snapper in particular is extremely seasonal here. Everybody loves it when it's snapper season, and it's always too short, it seems, but you've got to watch that. And so I have already started cleaning the grouper because it is a messy job. If you're going to fillet your fish, I recommend doing it outside, because no matter what you do, the scales seem to go everywhere and it creates such a mess. So it's worth it to set up a station outside where you can scale the fish. Okay, so I can now see that Crystal says that it looks like I'm in Italy. Well, actually, this stone wall behind me does remind me a little bit of Europe. We like to joke that it's our French farmhouse, but it's really Scottish. Our home is a historic home on the local historic registry, built by Thomas Angus McEwen, who is from Edinburgh, Scotland, and it's about 85 years old now. And we have an Airbnb cottage, and we have our house, and I love traveling to Europe where the older houses are. Thank you. That's why we love this house. And the stones that it's built out of are locally quarried limestone from the Wakulla area. So glad you like it, Crystal. And hello, Karen. All right, so I am now going to get back to fishing, or cooking the fish. I have already cleaned the grouper somewhat. I gutted it. I didn't want to do that live on camera because it's not pretty, and I'm just going to say sometimes you find out what the grouper last ate, especially with the larger fish. But I cut the stomach open and then rinsed it really well, pulled out everything that I didn't need, which was everything, and just left the good parts of the fish so it would be ready to fillet. And just because being live on camera with a slippery fish is a slippery business, I went ahead and started the fillet process. And so as you can see, I have already, let me actually switch cutting boards, removed one fillet from this fish. So I'm going to get over here and bravely attempt to do this live on camera. Okay, so here is my fish, and this is the fillet that I have removed. I think I did pretty well. As some of you know, I have a history with cleaning fish. My father bought a fish market when I was 13, and that meant I got to do a lot of fish cleaning. But we didn't do a lot of groupers. We did other varieties. And so I've already pulled this off. And the way that I did this, I'm just going to tell you, is I took my fillet knife. Now, I strongly encourage you, when you're getting a fillet knife, don't look at the price as much as the flexibility. There are some really expensive fillet knives out there that don't have the flexibility that this one has. This one has good flexibility. It's actually not an expensive knife. I think Max got it at Walmart. It's by one of the fishing lines. And it's really nice because when you're filleting, you want to be able to feel the bones of the fish so you know where you're cutting. And so I'm just going to reenact for you. I took the knife and I cut along the backbone of the fish, and I did it in layers, and I kind of pressed the tip of the knife against the bone gently, not enough to cut through the bone, but enough that I could feel the bone. And so I did that with the whole fish. I did not scale the fish first. If you're going to scale the fish, do it outdoors, but if you're going to skin the fish, you don't have to scale it. So I did not scale it. I left the scales on. I'm going to put this guy out of the way. I will work with that later. I'm going to show you how to skin the fish now. Having the scales on kind of helps, I think, if you're going to skin it, because it gives you a little more to work with. So I'm going to take my fillet knife, and I'm going to go ahead and just wipe off the blade a little bit, because I do have a few fish scales around here. Normally I would rinse off a fillet when I finish the whole process to make sure there are no scales on it, but I don't have a faucet here, so I'm just going to wipe it down. All right, so I am cutting the tail of the fish toward the tail at a 45-degree angle, and I'm cutting through the meat but not through the skin. Once you get that little notch, that gives you something to hold on to. You pivot the knife so you go 45 degrees in one direction, then turn it the other way, and then you push it flat against the cutting board. And this is nice, you want to make sure you're somewhere where you can work, and you sort of just pull the fish using that to hold on to toward you, kind of working the knife as close to the board as you can, parallel, back and forth. You want to double check to make sure that I'm getting all the way through. Everything looks good. Keep cutting. Now, when I cut this fillet, I left the portion of the meat that was around the belly of the fish because that is a thinner part and it does often have little bones in it, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I left that on the fish. I cut a little too deep there, so I'm doubling back a little. There we go. Hopefully I'm making this look easy. It's not exactly easy, I'll tell you the truth, but you can do it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off, cutting it back and forth a little more. Oh, there we go, almost done. Get that last little bit, and I'm down to the very end. As you can see, most of the skin came off. This last little bit is kind of at a rounder part of the fish, so I'm just going to cut around that. Now, because I knew I was going to skin it, I did not take the scales off. As you can see, most of the meat came off quite nicely. There's very little waste when you do that, although I do think that fish skin has many wonderful qualities, and I'm not opposed to leaving it on. To be honest, I took it off so I wouldn't have to scale the fish. But when you're grilling your fish, it's very nice if it does have the skin on to cook it on the skin, because that keeps it from sticking to the grill. This is just a little spot where I went a little too deep, so I'm going to trim this off, and I'm going to just double check for bones. And the way that you do that, it's nice that I'm wearing gloves. I'm wearing gloves because I don't have a sink to wash my hands when I'm finished, but it is really nice because it makes it easy for when you're feeling of the fish. You want a feel of the fish, and I'm just going to wipe off. There are a few scales there. And if you feel any bones, you'll feel little sharp, hard parts. There are tweezers they sell for this purpose that you can use to pull the bones out, but what I like to do is take something like a blunt, dull knife or spoon and just pull against the bone like that. I don't have a spoon that will work for that here, but you can use the back side of a dull knife or the edge of the spoon to pull the bones out. Hello everyone. Hi Lucy and Cole and Libby. Libby, did you catch anything? I heard you were out fishing yesterday too in a mighty beautiful sparkly boat. All right, so now that I have my fish off of the skin and I've got it filleted, I'm going to brush it very generously with olive oil, and I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to brush it on the other side. Normally, if I was going to clean all the fish, I would clean all the fish right now, but I'm just going to clean this much since I've got something else to show you. So I've got that ready. I've got it generously oiled, and I'm going to take the seasoning that I have, and this is my KitchenAble signature seasoning. It's also good on seafood, and sprinkle that generously on the fish. And I have our grill ready to go. You want to have your coals between medium high and high, and you want to make sure your grate is very clean. I hope you can see this. I can't lift it and show it to you, but it's really clean. If you have anything on your grate and it's dirty, then that's going to stick to your fish. So I'm going to take it and put it seasoned side down. Can you hear that sizzle? I'll lean in. And so I'm going to go ahead and season the other side since I seasoned the bottom. And I'm going to show you a couple more fish that we caught, and I am going to go ahead and switch gears. So first things first, it is best to cook your fish with the lid shut, but it cooks fast. So you want to leave it in there for about 3 to 4 minutes per inch of thickness. This is a really thick fillet, so I get to talk a little longer, but I'm going to check it in just a few minutes. But first, I'm going to show you, we also caught some grunts yesterday, and they are just a standard white grunt. And as large as this fish is, I filleted another one that was about this size. Believe it or not, this is what I ended up with. It was a little smaller than that, but by the time you're done with all of that, when you fillet a fish, you really do end up throwing away a lot of it, unfortunately. You can save the bones and the head to create a stock if you want. You can leave the skin on and eat that as long as you scale it. The skin does have a lot of the fat from the fish in it, so it gives you more of the omega-3s, and it's delicious. It's a delicacy to eat the fish of salmon and other fish in Japan. So you could do that, or you can cook them whole if you want, but if you cook them whole, eating them is a little more work at the end because you've got to watch what you're eating around. But in order to clean them, you just cut along the stomach and then open them up and rinse them really well to make sure that everything is out of there, and then do whatever you're going to do, whether you're going to fillet it or not. So I'm going to go ahead and have my wonderful production guy take these and put them in the cooler so that they stay cold. And this one too, because you do want to make sure you store your fish correctly so that it is fresh as long as possible. I hope you noticed the eyes of my fish were very clear because it was a very fresh fish and it was delicious and wonderful. Okay, so I am going to clear this away and finish up our next project, which is the salad. So I've already got that started with the red onion, which we have soaking in the white vinegar, and that is going to be ready about right now. Now, it's really tempting when you're grilling anything, but especially when you're grilling fish, to just kind of play with it and keep moving it around and make sure that it looks right and it feels right, but don't. You want to create a crust. That crust is what is going to pull away from the grates and help it to not stick. Also, I would strongly encourage you, if you like to grill and you use charcoal, don't fall for the lighter fluid trick. We use a chimney. We've done this for years, and it does take a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to this technique of piling the coals in with the newspaper and then dumping them when they're the right temperature, you end up with really great end results so that everything is really tasty and doesn't have a chemical flavor. And so thank you very much. Have a wonderful team that's in the background helping me out. I'm going to go ahead and wipe everything down really quickly with a wipe. Yes, I have wipes. No, I am not disclosing my address, so if anybody is tempted to steal some given the circumstances. Hi Charles, hi Millie. Yes, it is great to be outside cooking today. It's a little bit warm though because I'm standing by the grill. All right, so time to finish up our salad, but first I am going to peek at the fish. All right, here we go. Ooh, that's looking good. Okay, so how do you tell your fish is done? When your fish is done, it starts to become more opaque, so it's more white, less of that pinky grayish color. And if you can see, hopefully you can, this around the edges is becoming very opaque, and in the middle it's still got that color it originally had when we started it on the grill. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a fish spatula. Remember that fillet knife was flexible, so it allowed us to feel things. The same is true of a fish spatula. And I can feel under here, and if it's sticking, I know it's not done enough, but as you can see, hopefully, it's not sticking at all. It is wonderfully loose. Now, it's going to be a little tough to do this because this is a very large fillet, but I do like to bite off more than I can chew. So I'm going to try to flip this over very carefully. There we go. Thank you, those of you that were praying. I can tell. So it's already done on one side. The first side takes the longest to cook. The second side just takes a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get my platter ready for my finished fish. I have some hydroponic butter lettuce that I am going to use to line my platter. There are several farms in town that grow this, and I'm going to brag just a little bit about my son. He is helping at Lucky Dog Farm, which does a wonderful job with their hydroponic lettuce. I'm a little biased because they have, I think, the cutest staff, my kid. So, but they have wonderful hydroponic lettuce, and so do some of our other farmers with the Red Hills Small Farm Alliance. And this is great because it's getting too hot to grow it in the ground this time of year, like a lot of other things, and so it's nice that there are resources that have that available for us here locally, even when it's hot. So I'm lining my platter with fish. I'm lining my fish platter with lettuce. And I'm doing this because it's going to add beautiful color, it's going to give contrast to the fish, and it also will help collect if there's any juices that are flowing from the fish. They all blend in with the lettuce, and it makes a nice little salad presentation. So we've got that ready to go. And now I'm going to get the rest of our salad ingredients ready. I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of soy sauce, and I'm actually using gluten-free soy sauce. And I'm going to take a few other ingredients and add those to our salad. Now, normally when I make this, I use a sweet bell pepper, and I'm going to go ahead and use one tonight. And I'm going to show you. I know, this is the exciting part. Many of you have seen this before. Brace yourselves. This is how you cut a bell pepper. Ready? You just unroll it. And when you do that, you have a nice long strip of pepper ready to cut. And I'm going to take that other part off, add that in as well. And so I'm just going to cut this really thin and throw that in. I bet our fish is done. What do you think? I'm going to finish the pepper first, though, because I think we're there. Cutting it into really thin strips so it'll toss easily and it'll look beautiful with everything else that's going into the salad. And for a little extra heat, sometimes I add crushed red pepper, but tonight I'm not going to, because I'm going to add something from my garden. I'm very lucky. I have a good friend, Glenn, who is a master gardener, not just officially but in actuality, and he helps me grow a lot of beautiful peppers. All of these were picked from my garden earlier tonight, and this is one of my favorite peppers, and they have a really nice flavor. They're not just hot, they've got that wonderful smoky flavor that you get in a habanero, but not quite as much heat. So I'm going to chop that up and throw that in as well. I'm going to check the fish first though. Okay, so I'm looking at the fish. The color is great. Let's see if it's done. It's not sticking, so it is done. I'll just double check. It's perfect. Okay, now when your fish is perfectly done, the good news, bad news is it sort of breaks off in chunks. It's not really flaking, but it's breaking in chunks. And so you have to watch it because it's a lot easier to break it when you're through cooking it. But I think we did a pretty good job. So there's our fresh grouper that we caught, we cleaned, and we grilled. And you want to let that sit for about 3 to 5 minutes, just like you do with any other meat, so that it can sort of reconstitute the juices, redistribute, and everything will be juicy and moist and tender. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead, hi Tammy, and I'm going to mince this pepper really fine. This is the one from my garden. You could add a hot pepper if you like jalapeno and have that, or anything else. You can throw that in. And we're going to add that with the red pepper. And then we're going to add some mango. Now when you choose your mango, you want the mango to be a little bit soft, like when you're choosing an avocado. You don't want it to be squishy, but you do want it to be soft. And then you just cut along each side of the pit. And I have tutorials on how to do this in several places if you want to find one. And if you're really frugal, you can also peel around the pit. There you go. And get that last little bit of skin that's right, or not skin, sorry. The last little bit of fruit that's right there underneath the skin. So there we go with that. Honestly, I think it's a little more trouble than it's worth with this mango because it's a little fibrous close to the stem. Some of the mangoes are and some are not. Now the 2 halves that we peeled initially, those are pretty easy to finish. You just take a large spoon and you stick that between the skin and the fruit. And voila, I have the skin here. That's going to go in the trash. And then I've got the fruit there. And we'll cut that into some large pieces. It seems that, unfortunately, there is wildlife that has noticed that I am cooking delicious food out here. And it's warm. All right, so I'm cutting my mango into strips. Here we go. This one was very soft. I would recommend getting one that's a little less soft so it holds its shape a little better. Shoo fly. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and add another mango. I'll go for this one. My cilantro, my mint. Let's get this mango cut up. This one's a little better. The other one was good. It's just a little too soft. And here we go. Peeling this one with the spoon. I think next time I try to do this outside, I'm going to get someone to stand by me with a fan and just wave cool air. Oh, there we go. A little closer, honey. All right, so here we go with our last mango. And this one, I'm going to cut them in half, the slices in half. There we go. You can see it's even a slightly lighter color because it was so much less ripe. I think the flies smell the mango, which is such a wonderful tropical sweet smell, and so they want to see what we're cooking over here. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and get our tomatoes. And so the tomatoes have already been washed. And I will pull these off the stem here. Oops. And I'm going to cut these into chunks. Mangoes and tomatoes in a salad. Who knew? They're really quite delicious though. Now when you're cutting into your tomato, if you find that there is a hard spot, I would cut that out because you don't want it to be unpleasant to eat your salad. But these look perfect. They're vine ripe and they are a little bit soft. There we go. And finally, I'm going to add a little bit of fresh ground black pepper, and then we're set. So this beautiful, colorful salad has the purple from the red onion, the green from all the herbs, the red from the tomato. It's got the peppers. It's got the mangoes. It's really quite nice. And I did promise that I was going to add a little bit of black pepper. So let me get that ready. And last but not least, I'm going to put a little bit of fresh squeezed lime juice. So let me get that ready. Here we go. You can't see what's going on behind the camera, but I have a whole entourage of fan wavers now. I like this. You'll notice I'm using a spoon to juice the lime. This is a great way to get a little more mileage out of your tools. I do like citrus juicers and reamers, and I do use them frequently, but don't have one here right now, and I think the spoon works terrific. All right, so I've got a little lime juice in there. You can hear the air traffic, can't you? At least the birds have gotten a little quieter. They were really noisy before we started, and I wondered if they would steal the show. It's nice. We actually have a lot of trees in our yard, so that means we have a lot of wildlife. So there we go. Here's our beautiful salad. Hopefully you can all see how lovely this is, and I'm going to serve this tonight for my family for dinner with the grilled grouper that we caught. I'd really like to thank my friends Stephanie and Don who took us fishing. Thank you. We were socially distant all the time that we were out there, I promise. And I hope that you all will join me again sometime. Does anybody have any questions before I wrap it up and finish tonight? This is the final product. Doesn't it look beautiful? And I really appreciate you tuning in. So thank you for watching tonight. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me at any time, and I'll be back next Monday night at 7 to do another Facebook Live, and I would love to have you join in. Hey Sue, you should come over. You're not that far away. I could share. So thanks so much, and have a great evening, y'all. Have a wonderful